I'm back. I was banned from YouTube there. No, seriously, I was. This is on a brand new account because Wilson was broadcasting third-party videos. Somehow or another, I don't know. So that's what was the delay. So we are back here in a minute, maybe 2 minutes. I am going to talk to you about a sourcing technique that I'm developing right now that I think you're going to appreciate. Before that, quick question here, show of hands. Who here signed up for our ongoing China concierge? Okay, so that's pretty much everybody in the room, right?
Not everybody.
Well, hold on. I'm getting there. Well, the way that it works is, if you're not familiar with it, and most people should be, is you pay $50 a month, right? And that $50 a month is paid basically to hold a spot for you, so that way when you need to have some help with sourcing products from China, Dennis will be there for you. So the $50, it's kind of funny in a sense, because the $50 a month you're paying just to hold your place, basically, because then you will pay an additional $25 per product. How was it? $100, I meant, per product that you're having Dennis help you source. Dennis is our China concierge person, right? So the $50 is basically a fee just to have the privilege to pay us $100 per product. Pretty good offer, right? From a marketing standpoint. The reality is Dennis costs us a lot of money, as you can imagine. We have to pay him full-time to do nothing else but this, right? So this is a full-time man's salary that we have to pay. So the reason why we made this, what do we call it? China Concierge Club, is so that way you can help us cover his costs, so that way we can all use him. Because if we can all use him and keep him, then he becomes better and more valuable for all of us, right? Because he's going to make connections with all these different suppliers. He's going to learn this AM business even better and better as months and months go on. He's going to learn who we are. He's going to be able to interface and act with us and build with us, right? So it ended up working out perfectly. If you did not sign up for the Concierge Club, either because you didn't know about it, you didn't understand it, you weren't familiar with it, we closed it. It's done, okay? Will asked me if we could open it up again. And I said, yes, well, this is the way it's going to work. Only until the end of this event. If you haven't signed up for it yet, you can, but you have to pay because the first people have paid already in December, $50, right? And then January's dues are coming up, that's another $50. So we're going to charge you twice, $100 for your first join. And then after that, it'll be $50 a month. And then it'll be $100 per product you source. So if you haven't used it yet and you want to use it, this is the only time that we're opening it up now that I know of in the foreseeable future for several months.
Yeah, we'll open it up until everybody gets home, so let's say till Tuesday night. We actually don't even have a link right now because it's closed. So I'll set up a link and we'll put it in the Facebook group. I'll try and set up the link tonight so that if you want to ask me. The reason we're asking is somebody in the room came to me and said, look, there are a lot of people that I've talked to who didn't hear because they didn't go in the Facebook group, they didn't see or whatever, give them the opportunity. So if you'd like to, we'll open it up again until Tuesday evening and give you that opportunity. Like Jason said, to make it fair to everybody who joined on time, you're going to pay both the December and the January fee, and then we're closing it, and it's not going to be open again.
By the way, if you haven't used Dennis yet, or if you used him when he first started, it took him a while to get going. He was like crawling, now he's walking, now he's running. Dennis is up full speed. Somebody was just telling me the deal he negotiated with him. We are personally also using Dennis. Yeah, Carol, that was you. Yep. So, yes, we own him full time, basically.
Yes,
we will just have to pay him more money, right? But
so the question was, will he have the bandwidth if there are too many people? We are managing that number pretty closely and realize that everybody that raised their hands signed up to hold their spot to be a member of the club. They're not all using him at once. The idea is when we price this out is we're not into this to make a profit on the concierge service. Our primary goal was to keep it available because he was scheduled to go away. And it was such a valuable resource, we wanted to keep him around. So the way we calculated the numbers are, even if you're not using, and this is how we sold to everybody, even if you don't use them for 12, maybe 18 months, if you use them once within that time frame, it's been way more than worth your entire investment all the way through, all the monthly payments you've been making, because to get somebody with his expertise, his knowledge, his contacts would cost you a heck of a lot more. Usually these people charge on a per unit basis. So this is what we wanted to do. So a lot of the people that raised their hands, they might not use them for a year. So the question is, on the services that he's providing, will he also provide quality control? Not exactly. He will help you get samples shipped, so he'll facilitate you getting a sample. You have to make the payments. He doesn't take any payments that go to the supplier. You will pay the suppliers directly, but he'll facilitate that process for you. He does have other contacts in China who do quality control. That is not something that is included in what he does. He can put you in touch with the right people who will then do that for a fee for you. But yes, he has people who will visit factories on once or on a regular schedule. You have people that will pull samples out of your shipments before the shipments go out on a random basis and inspect it. All of that stuff can be done, and he can arrange that for you, so he can facilitate it. Those are additional costs. Another reason we're charging the $100 fee per product is to make sure that only serious product requests are going to him. Because if it was just 150 people who are just paying $50 a month and they can source as many products as they want, he'd get a lot of just not serious requests, right? You got to put a little skin in the game. Okay, I'm serious. I'm going to spend $100. That will keep the number of people who actually work with him on a daily basis down as well. You can ask him to source as often as you'd like. Every project you're going to put him on, it costs $100, which is a real awesome deal. But yeah, if you want to do 10 projects at one time, go for it. Yeah, so one of the challenges is finding a good freight forwarder who deals with paperwork and all of that. He can assist in some of that. Is definitely not his specialty. He can help facilitate some of that, but no, that service will be something outside. We can ask him to start making some additional connections. Usually, of course, those services are going to cost extra. I can ask him to start looking and making some connections over there. Yeah, but really, you want somebody stateside to do that, not somebody over there.
Just think of Dennis like this. If you're looking at China and you want some help finding a product, you don't know where to start, you want an inside scoop because he has a relationship, you want somebody to broker a deal potentially for you to get in the door where you normally would never be able to get in the door, that's his primary use. Beyond that, if you want him to do other stuff, it's probably easier for you to find somebody else to do that for free. Even in some cases, you could just ask simple questions and get them answered. So think of Dennis as your go-to guy. Like, we couldn't find certain products that Will and I want to do in China. We could not find a supplier. So we asked him, hey, Dennis, do you know anybody who would have this? And he comes back to us and he's like, oh yeah, we have this, but we also have this. Would you like this kind of thing? Would you like this kind of thing? He gives us options. So think of it this way. It's like everybody else is just going to go to Alibaba, and that's their secret China sourcer, right? Dennis has been doing this for a long time. He's got inroads and connections with sourcing products that you're just not going to get anywhere else.
Yeah, he's going to negotiate minimum order quantities. Carol was telling us that she was trying this one product and couldn't get less than $5,000 worth of product.
5,000 units.
5,000 units, okay. And he's negotiated it down to like $800 order. I don't know how many units that is, but he's been able to negotiate. So he's done that for a lot of people, help negotiate minimum order quantities. He speaks the language, he understands the culture, and that goes a long way in the negotiation process. So he's very, very good at that. He is based in the Philippines. He lived in China for 6 years and has done this for a living for a long time.
All right, so I should be back on. So it'll take a few seconds, I think, Will. Can you let me know if it comes back on the stream? There is, yes. But it's tied to that. So if that dies, then the audio dies. Anything yet? Nothing? Okay, we're going to give it about 30 more seconds. If not, we're going to start a new one. It says we're live here. It says 49 viewers. Am I good? Boom. Back. Okay, so that's an issue. Now, some of you who have products here, you have a product, either it's in transit or it's already made to Amazon, but you feel it wasn't the right product that you picked out. Okay, good. That's not that many people. But sometimes you can wake up in the middle of the night and be like, oh, duh, I picked the wrong product. It happens, okay? I was telling a story over lunch about how I got super excited that we were going to go after toner. And then finally, because I know nothing of my market, somebody says to me, nobody buys toner. We're talking makeup on its own. They buy it with other accessories as part of a kit. And can't do it, right? Luckily, I found that out before I ordered 500 units, right? But that happens. Sometimes you pick a product, and then after you realize something, you say, oh, that wasn't the right product. So then you think, oh, crap, I got to go back to the drawing board. And that happens, okay? Sometimes you pick a product that you think is okay. It's good, but you don't think it's going to be the one that's going to make you rich. It's good, but it could be better. You could have picked a better product. Is that anybody here that think they could have done better? Okay, cool. And then there's people here, I'm assuming, who here wants more than one Amazon product? Everybody, right? Okay, good. Good. Because if one is good, two is better. If two is better, three is best. And then on and on and on there, right? The point of this is I've never seen a business that can predictably grow that is over-reliant on just one thing. Now, I'm sure you could point to me examples of this, right? But they would be amazing exceptions to the rule. And I don't know about you, but this is livelihood we're talking about here. Don't want to bank on that. I want to play the odds, right? And so most businesses I know are well diversified who plan on having multiple things in their business that contribute to their growth, right? So the general way, let's do a quick review here. What's the criteria for picking a product to sell via this system on Amazon? Go ahead and shout out something. Price point. Generic, no brand, right? Size and weight considerations. Search value. Packaging considerations, right? Bestseller ranking is the most important, by the way. It should have been first. Cost and profit margin, right? Consumables. All of those things and more, right? In my opinion, what I really focus on when I do the criteria is four things. The first thing is bestseller rank. Trumps everything else, okay? So bestseller top 100, that's what they tell you in ASM. You're lucky you got us because we have The Matrix. So we're not limited to the other 900 people here are going to fight over the top 100, and we have more lateral capabilities, which is cool, right? And so bestseller is number one. The second thing I look at then is price, right? Bestseller number one, price to me is second. I want to play in that range, and I personally don't look for anything less than $19.95. While they recommend down to $7, there's too many products to worry about getting down to $7. Forget it. I like to go 20 to 40. I may be going into 50 here pretty soon, but I don't know yet. I'd like to play with 50 in the next year or two. I think we can do 50 and still make it impulsive. Okay? So 20 to 40 is the second consideration for me. The third consideration then becomes, am I able to easily source this thing or not? Okay? Am I going to be able or easily able to source this thing or not? So what's the process for finding out if we source it? We go to Google, type it in, private labeler for whatever widget, and we do some searches, right? If we have Dennis in our back pocket, we maybe ask Dennis, hey Dennis, can you get us the inside beat on these things or that thing or this thing, right? And maybe he goes to work and he helps us, right? However, I'm sure you've experienced where you found this really great product, but you just cannot find anybody who will private label it, right? That kind of sucks. So the thing that I'm starting to do more and more of in our research and what we're planning on doing on our products is I'm now working backwards. And let me explain what I mean by that. I find suppliers, not products. I specifically look for just suppliers first. And then I call them up and tell them, say, hey, what do you got that I can buy? Give me a list. I'm looking at buying several different products to expand my physical product business. And I came across your website, and I'm very interested in some of your different products. I'd like to know what you got, right? Then you take this list, and then you take the list, and guess what you do with it? You check it. You say, okay, would this work? Would this work? Does this meet the criteria? Does this meet the criteria, right? Because here's what we're doing that's the difference. We already know we have a supplier for it, right? We already, and furthermore, you ask them. Now, I'm not going to go crazy right away. I want a test quantity that I can run with before we go all in on this thing, right? That's not going to be a problem, is it? You know? Okay, cool. No problem, right? So we'll post a document that walks you through all the different questions that you can ask the supplier, right? You guys know what I'm talking about? If not, find out what that is. Because you basically have that conversation now first before you even pick a product. You say, I'm considering several different products. I may do one, I may do more, right? I noticed that you had this thing. You look like a pretty cool supplier. I'd just love to know what your product line is and your price sheet is. And you ask the questions before we ever pick a product, right? So then you take the list that you get and you start running down it and saying, okay, I think this one might be worth it. Let me go and do the research, right? The only trick to this is figuring out what the keyword is, okay? That's the trick with doing something like this. So we've been doing this with a lot of beauty products, which, God, I know nothing about, you know? So I'm trying to guess and figure it out, and I'm telling Will, because Will's talked to the supplier, I'm like, hey, Will, just call the supplier up and ask them, what the heck do people use this thing for, you know? Because I don't know. Give me some ideas so I can do some keyword research, right? But ideally, we find products where the keyword is obvious, okay? There are a lot of products, wouldn't you agree, where the keyword is vitamin C serum. Obvious, right? You can't even do anything other than call it vitamin C serum. You know, you can't call it like, you could call it like Jane's vitamin C serum, right? But you can't call it like, what was that vitamins for smart people or thing, or what was it called? Smarty Pants, right? Smarty Pants vitamins. That's cool, right? But you can't get fun with it with vitamin C serum. It's so blasé, it's so bland as it is. It's obvious what the keyword is, and there's not much else you can do with it. Ideally, these are the products that we first look to for two reasons. One, it's easy for us to do our research and not screw up, right? Secondly, if we see the obvious connection, what's the consumer going to be doing when they consider buying this? The same thing, right? Now, there are products out there who have multiple keywords, and even some products further still that the keywords are almost equally divided. Like there's two really big main keywords that split the traffic, right? I don't really like those products because I want to do all the work into one keyword and get all the benefit instead of having to do twice the amount of work to get that traffic. Does that make sense? So this is what I'm looking for. And so what does this mean? This means we could contact several suppliers. We can get several different pricing sheets. And we can get several different ideas that we would never get even with a bestseller matrix, even with doing the research, right? And even better than that is, now I'll tell you where the situations you start to get into, which become very interesting. Does anybody know the story of Viagra, of how it was created? No? Heart medicine. Interesting side effect. So they go and they try to create this heart medicine, and it fails because they're trying to push the blood to the heart, and it goes further south, right? So instead of saying, oh crap, we screwed up, they say, oh, we got a new product. Didn't change anything other than the damn name and the label, right? So you will find interesting scenarios, as I'm finding out currently as we're working with these suppliers, is I go to them and I say, hey, this thing has a really good price, because this is the other thing that you do. You get this product list, and the first thing I do, sort by price. Let's start with the cheapest it can cost me, okay? Because here's something that I know to be true. I can always add value. That's easy. But if I'm starting with a razor-thin profit margin, it's too much work for me, right? So there's some really good products out there that I look at that are like $20 for me to source, and I could probably only sell them for $35, right? So I'm making a $15 profit, let's say, on this. There are other products out there that I can source for $5 and sell for $30, right, or $25. I'm making a $25, $30 profit margin on the same thing. There's not much difference in a lot of products that you can buy for $5 or $10 your cost versus products that you pay $20 for, right? So I like to start with the cheapest possible product that I can source, price-wise. Because if I can find something that's both cheap and I can sell at the $30 or $40 price point, right? That's equivalent to like 3 regular ASM products. You see what I'm saying? If I'm paying like $5, $6 total cost on something, and I'm selling something for $35, I like that. I like that a lot. So you start with the lowest possible prices that you can get. Now you'll eliminate a lot of them, because a lot of them at a low price point don't have a high retail markup, right? Some of them you'll eliminate just because you can tell that they're obviously probably not mass market products that are going to be bestseller type rankings. But very quickly, you will be able to find potentially gyms here and gyms there where people have very competitive prices for what they're selling it for that the market does not, in relativity, mesh with. Because, and this is a mistake that consumers make, and us as consumers, because we're also consumers, right, we sometimes make. The retail price is not necessarily directly linked to the wholesale price.
In this backwards scenario, you haven't mentioned BSR yet.
Yeah, I'll get to that. So when I sort it by price point, then I say what looks like it might have a high BSR. Then I plug what that keyword is into this Amazon search. And then I say, oh, if it's good, it's good. If it's not good, then I move on to the next one, right? But see, I start with the price point first because, like I said, price has nothing to necessarily, wholesale price is not necessarily linked to retail price. It often is, because if it costs me $20 to make this damn thing, I can't sell it to you for $19, right? But how many things cost $1 to make that sell for $40? Can you name one? Viagra is one of them, right? Viagra costs nothing. Spatulas. Spatulas cost nothing. I'm seeing kitty litter being sold like from China. The only problem is the freighting on it. But kitty litter, you could buy a ton of that stuff for like $10. And I'm like a physical ton, 2,000 pounds of it for $10, right? Big cat. Right. So wholesale price is not necessarily always related to retail price. So the first thing I do when I sort it and I look for the lowest price thing that seems to make sense, that might have potential, I go to Amazon, I type that sucker in, and I see the results. Now, immediately I look at the retail price, first of all. And this is, even Will and I got into this a little bit the other day. Because Will's was saying, man, oh God, the conversation was great. I couldn't talk, by the way. Because I got like a thing of laryngitis this week. I'm so lucky I have my voice back. But I did not talk Monday, Tuesday, or Wednesday, barely at all. All my meetings I either canceled or did by text. So Will and I are in this meeting, text meeting now, right? And I'm telling him, because he's like, this product don't make sense, Jason. There's all kinds of products on the first page for this keyword that are under $10. And I said, I counted them. So there's 4.5 products here, because one was $9.99, right? I said, well, there's 4.5 products out of 16 that are under $10. So I go, that's not all, that's not a whole bunch of them, that's only 25%, you know? I go, second of all, there are 3 products that are above $20 on this page too, right? And I said, we don't care so much that there's 10,000 products that are selling on price. All we care is that there's 3 products that are selling at a higher price point that have a high bestseller ranking, right? When you do cost analysis, when you say, what can the market bear? It's not, what is the average person retailing this for, right? The question is, what can the market bear? Okay? Because what you will find inevitably in every situation, you will find that the majority of people will compete on price. The majority of retailers will compete on price. We don't care that that's true. Here's what we care about. Are there 2 or 3 examples that we can find for this keyword that have a price point that we would love to sell at? That's all we care about. All we care about. Because that's what the market will bear. Does that make sense? We don't care what other retailers are. I do not even look, and this was what's so funny about Will and I, because Will finally got it, and we're working on our processes still. I said, well, I don't look at any other prices on that page. I do not pay one iota attention to what the competition is selling at. All I do when I do my analysis of a product opportunity is I look for 2 or 3 things that can validate that price point. And then once I look at them, I say, can I do something similar to that, right? If it's a brand-driven thing, I probably can't, right? If it's some fancy schmancy extra little additive that my product won't be able to have, I can't do that, you know? But if it's something that I look at and say, the market will bear this, and I can create a similar version of this, now we're cooking, right? So there's a product that we still might not be able to do, because now we get into the whole sourcing thing, because we didn't do this technique with before. This is what led me to this technique, is if we already know we can source the product before we go out and do it, then it changes the game, right? Because in this particular case, I'm looking at what the market will bear. I found this really awesome, incredible product. I have no idea if we'll ever be able to source this damn thing, you know, but I do know that there's definitely things that we can make money with this, because there's 3 or 4 at a high price point that's selling in the bestseller. All 4 of them are in the top 400 in this category. Weird little product, right? But Will says to me, he says, what kind do you want? Because there's like a whole bunch of different ways you can make this thing. It's like a rack, so to speak, kind of like a rack. It's like, which one do you want? I'm like, I don't care. I don't care if it's bamboo. I don't care if it's white. I don't care if it's satin. I don't care if it's plastic, right? All I care is that there's products, and there was products that were all 4 of those things in the bestseller. I go, all I care about is to the naked eye, when they look at it, I say, oh, this looks pleasant. Because that's what I assumed was happening when they were buying these other products, right? In my assessment, I said, there's 4 products selling in this particular rack, and they're all different in a sense, but what's the commonality that allows them to fetch at this higher price point? Well, there's 2 commonalities. Here's the first one. They're willing to ask for it. Many times, that's the only secret for getting a higher price point. You have the guts enough to ask for it. But the second commonality is they all look pleasing to the eye at a glance, right? So I assessed, can we compete with that? And that's the only thing we have to compete with. Turns out we could, right? Now, I still don't know if we'll find a source for the product. This is the one where we're now having Dennis look into it further and figure it out, right? But if we did it the opposite, if we knew this was already clear and cut and dry from the beginning, now we get one more advantage that we don't have. What's the lowest I can sell this at? And what's the highest I could sell this at retail and be comfortable, right? Because when you start doing the analysis and you say, I would really like to sell this thing for, so I was looking at this product, and I told Will, I go, this type of product, because it's kind of heavy, we'll probably have to sell it for $30. But if we have to source it, like the 15-pound version of it, I'm going to have to sell it for $40, right? But if we source the 6-pound version, because there was bestsellers that were both weights, right? Then I go, we can probably charge $30 for this thing, right? Maybe a little bit less. What's the least we can charge, though, on this thing, retail-wise, not special offer-wise? What's the least we could charge on this thing to make me still want to be in this game, right? So if I'm still making $7 a unit selling something like this, I'll probably still play it, right? Does that make sense? I would like to make double what I pay for it. I'd like to pay 10, sell it for 30, and come out at about 50% profit margin when you take away all the fees and everything, right? But worst case scenario, I'll probably settle for $7 a unit. That's probably the least I want to go, right? But I don't know what we can pay. I don't know what we're going to get these products for, right? I have no idea. So my guessing is just like, well, once we find a supplier, then we'll have to reevaluate, see if the price works and if we can be competitive and all stuff. So that's the challenges with doing it the way that the ASM teaches you right now. Which, by the way, the big advantage of the way ASM teaches you right now how to source is that you don't have to guess the keyword, right? So both ways are good. Both ways are worth doing. What I do know is if you've had trouble doing it the first way, trying to do it that same way, guess what happens? You still have trouble because you're doing the same thing, right? So if you can't solve the problem one way, you don't just keep pushing that way and try to solve it. You try it a different way, right? So this might be the different way to help you. The other thing is just because one way works, does that mean that you don't do any other way? Not in this case. In this case, if there's a variety of different ways and they all work, you should do them all, right? So this is something else that you should try and see how it happens. Because you might get a breakthrough here that you would have never got doing things the way everybody else does them, right? Because if you do things the way everybody else does it, you get the same result everybody else does. Okay, so when I'm thinking this way, I'm like, if we can reverse engineer it, if we know beyond a shadow of a doubt what our profit margin has to be on this product before we ever get too emotionally invested in this product. Guess what that does for us? Because here's the problem. The research, you research it, you fall in love with this product. Connie, I'm looking at you, and you're like, oh my God, this is the perfect product. I love it so much. I got an emotional attachment to it because I would use this product myself, but I can't find a supplier for it, right? So what's going to happen when she finds a supplier who's not quite at the price point that she wants, who's not quite got the product that she wants? What's the average person do in that situation? They go for it anyway, because we're all optimistic. That's a healthy trait. We say, well, it's not ideal, but what is? Okay? Because you're emotionally attached at this point to the product. If you go through it the opposite way, you say, I got to have this number. I got to have this number to make this work. Then you will not settle for things that you don't want to settle for, right? And you will be much more powerful in your negotiation. Like we just negotiated for our vitamin C a very favorable rate. Much lower than what was advertised. Because I knew the number had to be this. If we wanted to sell it, the number absolutely had to be this. Otherwise, we were going to go somewhere else. You know? Simple as that. And it's amazing when you make up your mind. It's like backing into the number that Will talks about. When you make up your mind, the only way I can do this product is if it meets this criteria, then you will be much more selective of which products you undertake. And that alone will increase your success rate and how much money you can make, and what your company is going to look like when you're doing this Amazon business, right? So a quick review here before we move on to the next part of this phase is step number one is what? We look for suppliers, not products, right? So what's a hot niche? What's a hot category to be in on Amazon? Beauty. Beauty private label suppliers, right? Here's a little trick that we just discovered is we started looking into bottling companies, right? And bottling companies, like, because you know, if you buy 50 gallons of skin cream, it's a hell of a lot cheaper. But somebody's got to scoop it in there and screw the lid on the thing, right? Now, so we started researching bottling companies, and you know, if you want to run 500,000 units, then yeah, you might be able to do bottling. Otherwise, it's probably screwed, right? But what we did find is a list of suppliers that use the bottling company, private labelers, right? And I'm like, oh, this is interesting. Here's 50 different suppliers that we can call on. We didn't. It just fell into our lap. So we found this because we were looking at bottling companies. Right now, everybody's going to go out and look at the same damn bottling companies. Okay? And it's not going to be great because we're all going to be calling the same suppliers. So that's just an example. The thought behind this is, where could we find a list of private label suppliers, right? That's not Alibaba, okay, because that's obvious. And so you got to just start with the Google searches, see what happens. You look over all kinds of different things in all kinds of different ways. And there was a site I found a long time ago when I did not know about this strategy. I don't remember what it is now, but it was like a catalog of private label suppliers in a niche. It was a website that was nothing more but a directory of all the different suppliers in that niche, right? The other thing to consider doing too is take a very, very, very popular product like a Garcinia Cambogia and find suppliers for that, but call them and don't call them to private label Garcinia Cambogia. Call them and see what else they have to offer, right? But I start very generic. Health private label. Think I'm going to find anything? Find a hell of a lot more than if I type in argan oil private label, right? I'll find probably 1,000 times as many suppliers if I type in beauty private label, right? The trick again, and this is where we can come into play as a group, the trick again is evaluating and saying, is this product meet the criteria? Okay? Because when we get into some of these things, So what we were doing is we were looking at the price list for this beauty product. And there's a certain type of product that I want to sell on there. And I kept saying to Will, I go, if we can sell this product, but not call it the same thing they're calling it, right? So if we can sell a moisturizer, let's just use that as a hypothetical example. Now, the price sheet says that this thing is really a anti-wrinkle facial cream, right? But man, look how cheap they're selling this damn thing for, right? Could this also just be a plain old regular skin moisturizer? If it could, guess what? I ain't calling it a facial cream. Skin moisturizer, right? That wasn't the intended purpose of this particular specific product, mind you, right? But a cream is a cream in a bottle. So we want to go on price. So what might necessarily be the anti-aging cream or the sunscreen lotion or whatever it is might not be what they call the sunscreen lotion. It's the Viagra effect, right? So when I'm analyzing a look at these products, I'm starting to get creative. I say, and then you just ask the supplier. That's all you do. You say, can you take this, and would it be okay to sell it as this? Is this skin cream also, because have you seen the 3-in-1 suntanning lotions? They're suntan lotions, they're bug spray repellents, and they're, I don't know what else, like rust removers or something like that, right? What if that 3-in-1 was cheaper than a bug repellent? I would just call my damn thing a bug repellent, right? What if I found a men's anti-dandruff shampoo that was also natural, right? And it was cheaper than any other natural shampoo I could sell. I just call it a natural shampoo, right? Does that make sense? So also when you look, and I'll get your question in a second, also when you're looking at these sheets, don't be locked into what they call the product. Anybody here own WP Member Champ? Anybody out here own WP File Lock? Smart, okay? Because File Lock is WP Member Champ, but we took out one single function. Because everybody says, I want to buy this membership plugin, but I don't have a membership site. I just want to use it for my one-off products. Can I do that? I don't think I can do that. Yes, you can do that. I'm not sure, because you call it Member Champ, right? So we said, fine. Take out the membership function, and now it's just a file lock, right? And then people bought it in droves. The ASM Ranker tool is nothing more than ERS, Easy Redirect Script, got it out, and then Ranker stuck inside of it instead, right? We do this all the time, and you guys buy it, and we do the same thing. So don't take what they give you and not consider being flexible with it. These are the breakthroughs that are going to make you competitive when everybody else is doing the exact same out-of-the-box product. Now, do I recommend you necessarily start there? No. Follow the normal way that they teach you. If that gives you trouble, start working my way, okay? And I'll document this and put this in the Facebook group, I think, okay? If enough of you bug me and I haven't done it in a reasonable amount of time, then I will do it, okay? But if you're having trouble doing it the first way, consider doing it this way, okay? If you're happy doing it the first way but want to try an additional way because you think it'll spark more creativity, do this, right? If this is something that you want to do because you're having trouble finding a second product or a third product or whatever, this is the one I would consider doing. And this is more and more how I'm personally going to start picking our products. Because I don't want to go to Amazon, find a product I love, and then not find a supplier for it. It just pisses me off. Because I feel like I'm wasting time, right? I'm doing it the opposite way. Give me suppliers. Give me numbers. And now let me go and see if any of those products meet the criteria. Because if they do, I know for a fact that I could source them. So Cynthia, let's get her a mic.
I just wanted to reiterate that the assumption is we're still following the criteria, though, right?
It's got to be a bestseller.
It has to be a bestseller.
Absolutely.
So my skin rejuvenator that's now a bug repellent, I need to make sure that bug repellent is a BSR.
Absolutely, right? So what you might find, and I found this a lot, I say, oh, your three-tone, oh God, I can't think of it, but these beauty products, they get so weird with their different names. Like, what's the difference between a serum and a cream? There is no difference.
A serum and a gel are the same thing.
But serums have less searches, right? Maybe. So is it a serum or is it a cream? Hell, I don't know. Let's do some research, you know? What about a gel? Can a gel be considered a serum or is a gel not a serum, right? And then you get into these peptide stuff. What the hell's a peptide, right? But then you get into peptide eye peptide gel, right? But is a peptide serum the same thing as a peptide gel, right? So you just ask them, because I'm going to run through and try different searches. And where do I find these? If I type in the keyword but I don't see anything promising, here's what I would usually find. A bestseller will still show up in a lot of instances on these smaller keywords, especially these long tail keywords. Because it has so much volume, it shows up in all these miscellaneous keywords, right? And I'll say, why is this product, which should not be long here, in this listing, right? What's the keyword that they're probably selling for? And can this product that I'm doing research fit that keyword, right? It's not an exact science, which is why they don't teach it in ASM, because it's a lot more fuzzy in its approach, right? But that's how I think. So I always look for bestseller, keyword-based bestseller. So if I look at this thing and say, is it a bug repellent? Is it something else, right? And we can tweak it a little bit. It has to be bestseller. Because some of those things, like we looked at, like, by the way, facial cream and eye cream, what's the difference there, right? Sometimes there is a difference. There actually is. Sometimes there's not a difference, right? So you got to ask the supplier these kind of things. But if you go and you look at their list and you do the research, you say, oh man, if this thing was just this keyword, if I can make it be this keyword, the price is good, I know that they have it, I know they can supply it, I know what the minimum order quantity is. Now we just play a game called Let's Make a Deal. What can you do for me to make this happen? Here's what will happen sometimes. They'll say, we don't have that currently, but if you want to order it, we can make that for you. And you say, if the price is right, it's got to be this price, though. It's amazing what manufacturers will do when they know they got a buyer on the line, right? But we do it if you do it the opposite way, they know for a fact they have a buyer on the line. Also, they become very accommodating to you. If you go to them and say, I need this absolute product that I got my heart set on, not so accommodating. If you say, hey, I might go with you, I'm in the market, I really want to start sourcing products, I'm very open to the opportunities of different products, I haven't nailed down one yet. Now they're catering to you, like all kinds of advantages that you otherwise would have never had. Does that make sense? The negotiation power that you get in a situation like this? Again, the only challenge is if we see a product and we say, oh my goodness, this antifungal eye cream. I can get it for 2 cents. And yeah, I go to the bestseller ranker and I just type in like eye cream, thinking that's the key word, right? I'm screwed because I'm never going to rank it for eye cream. So that's where the trick is, making doubly, triply sure that the keyword is the right keyword for this product. And then once you see that keyword and it's the bestseller and it meets that criteria, you're good because you know in the price point, obviously.
Yeah, make sure when you're talking to suppliers that you understand that they are going to try and sell you, especially in a situation where you're telling them you're not really sure, you're open, you want to find out what the opportunities are. Because we've gone to our supplier and said, hey, tell us what else we should look at, what else sells well. Oh, you should sell this.
You don't
right?
believe
it sells really well.
They say about it.
Yeah, so we go to Amazon and we do the research and it's like, oh my God, that's a horrible product to sell. Maybe it sells in other venues, but it's not selling on Amazon. So don't take their word for it that it sells well, ever, without doing the research. Regardless of how you decide what product you want to pursue, whether you find a supplier first and then figure out the products they have and try and see if they fit. The product itself still has to fit the criteria before you actually pursue it. This is another avenue for you to locate possibilities of products, but still evaluate them against the criteria.
Yes.
Make sense?
Yep. Instead of just looking at a bestseller list and starting there, we look at a supplier list and say, do they sell any products that are also bestsellers? But never ask a barber if you need a haircut, right? They will tell you about this great new product that's going to take the world by storm in 6 months. It's just a magic little bean you drop in your gas tank and you never have to put gas in it again, right? You got one of those?
So if you're picking a supplier, and that's where you start. So their quality in terms of product, its beauty, is it pharmaceutical grade, their efficiency on shipping, how do you know that?
How would you know anything, right? You feel them out, you know. If they answer the phone, they say, "What do you want?" Then you say, "Okay, next," right? You just guess. You say, "It feels like these people got their act together," right? It feels like everything makes sense about this product. I actually like the people who are a little inept, the suppliers, because they'll really give you good deals. Because not a lot of people call them. Now you got to check the product quality. So it depends on the type of product. The one beautiful thing about beauty is, I hate to tell you, I hate to tell the women in the room, but there's not really any difference between one beauty product and another. There's very, very little difference. I know, right? Shock. So I really don't care, in a sense. As long as this thing is FDA approved and nobody's died using it, my product is probably just as good as any other product. The only exception is if you're getting into the $80 or $90 price range, right? Because the thing is, to really create an exceptionally powerful breakthrough beauty product, it's going to cost you a lot of money. Okay? There's a reason why Rapid Crush products are expensive relative to the market. Because our support alone would cost more. It costs us more to support our products than what these people sell their products for, right? So I could go and sell a $19 crappy-ass WSO and you get no support from me, right? It'll probably cost me $20 per person who buys my product to support them, right? But what would you rather have? Pay a little bit more to me and get awesome support? Or buy from some random joker and get no support, right? So with beauty, it's the same way. Now, different niches obviously have different things. But with beauty, you're not going to really see any massive difference in this category unless you're going at a very high price point, which we don't play in. So on the consumable, oh, my friend Mary Sue saw Dr. Oz the other day mention vitamin C serum, right? They're going out there and buying this thing, saying, yeah, cool. I'm going to try this out and see what happens, right? And every formula is pretty much the same. The beautiful thing about beauty is you can look at the ingredients, right? Oh, they're all the same. We had a lady call us up. Remember that, Will? And she says, I was looking at your skin cream versus somebody else's, right? And I noticed that you did not have this ingredient listed. And she made the assumption that, like, we were all natural. We intentionally decided not to have this bad ingredient that she heard about, right? That's the difference for a lot of people. It has no difference on the quality of the product. It's like, yeah, we probably got 16 other ingredients that are just as bad. But they're not famous yet. You know, we all know Diet Coke is not good for us, right? But I don't need some idiot on Facebook telling me. You know, I understand. I'm going to drink it anyway. I like it. The skin cream probably isn't going to magically cure every single wrinkle I have, right? But it feels pleasing when I put it on. It's nice and cool. It has a good smell, right? And any massage, by the way, is going to help the wrinkles. I think it's more the massage than it is the cream, right? My point, though, Rob, is for consumable household products, we are not selling quality. We're not, okay? I drive a Mercedes-Benz. It's one of the few luxuries I've ever splurged on in my life. That is a quality automobile. That thing will parallel park for you, okay? No, I'm not joking. It literally will, right? It's got night vision in it. I've never used it. I have no idea why I would use it. But if I ever have to, like, sniper anybody in a war, I can do that, right? Now, I paid a considerable amount of money for this luxury, right? That's a luxury good. All right? A plastic back roller thing is not a luxury good. A yoga mat is not a luxury good, right? It's a consumable. If there's any difference in the product itself, it's microscopic. From one to the next to the next. Most bottled water, it's filtered in a some facility somewhere in St. Louis, right? It's got a different name on it. There's not much difference. Now, if you want to get the fancy schmancy, we got it from the Himalayan springs, right? Great. But you're also paying $5 a bottle, not $1 a bottle, right? We sell consumable, run-of-the-mill goods. There's no difference really from one product to the next. As long as this thing doesn't fall apart when you open it. I'm not joking, right? I am not joking. So then what do we win on? What do we win on? Marketing and service. And service. What I mean by consumable is I don't mean in the sense, there's two definitions of consumable. Consumables as in like vitamins, I got to keep taking them. If I don't take them, I'll die. So therefore, I'm buying from you forever, right? Every month I'm placing my order. That's what most people think consumables. What I think about consumables is very different. It's an interesting, good point. I think in my mind I create this picture of a prospect saying, I really want this thing. They buy it, they use it up, and then they throw it away, right? And then they move on to the next thing, you know? It's like when I buy skin cream, this is an actual consumable, right? But if I were to buy, I'm trying to think, a yoga mat, to me is like, you throw it on the floor and you go there and you whatever. It doesn't have to be a Mercedes-Benz of yoga mats, does it? Spatula. It doesn't have to be, like me and my daughter are watching SpongeBob and he's got his fancy spatula that he loves, right? That's a cheap-ass spatula, okay? And then this one episode, they find this talking activated spatula that they bring in there and all this stuff, right? It's a premium spatula. There is no premium spatula, right? So don't get caught up in the quality of the product. I understand where it's coming from, okay? I understand where it's coming from because in internet marketing, quality is everything. I sell some of the highest quality products for the price point in the market, which has made me a lot of money, okay? But what do I sell? I'm going to teach you how to make money on Google+, right? That is not a consumable product. People are going to say, oh, cool. The average person walking down the street is going to be like, gee, I heard on Dr. Oz the other day about how to make money on Google+. Hell, I'm sold, right? They don't do that, which is why we sell this product for $100 too, and not like $20 or $30. And so our quality has to be just as good as anybody else's quality. Not better. There's no reason. There is no reason to make a superior, higher quality product. Because guess what advantage that has? What's the number one advantage a high quality product has in marketing? Nobody's saying anything confidently. I just heard a bunch of mumbles. Nobody has a very confident answer to that. The number one what's that? Anybody can call it the best widget, right? What was, Papa John's, made from fresh ingredients? Yeah, right. What's the definition of fresh? Don't say fresh. What? 5-star reviews, right? How many actual people who buy a product leave reviews? Who's more likely to leave a review, a happy customer or a pissed off customer? So we don't want it to fall apart, right? But if it's just adequate, they're not going to leave nobody's going to probably leave a review, okay? What's the number one advantage? This is a great question. What's the number one advantage of having a high quality, superior product? You can sell them other stuff on the back end. That's the number one advantage. If you come to me and you buy product E-Class, you say, damn, that Jason's really good at product creation. And I come along next month and I say, yeah, you have all these products, now you should learn how to write copy for these products. Here's copy E-Class, right? You're going to buy it if you like my last product. If you didn't like my last product, you're not going to buy it. Maybe. If you were indifferent on it, then I got to start the sales cycle over again. I got to resell you, right? But then you buy copy E-Class, you say, sales letters are fantastic, right? But boy, what really works for persuasion is not in print, it's in live on a webinar. So go ahead and come and buy a Webinar Legend, right? The average person in this room has bought more than one product from me. I love it because 7 people today have come up to me, Jason, I buy all your products, right? And they think they're unique. They're like, I'm probably the only one. They're almost sheepish. I'm probably the only one. I know I shouldn't buy it all because I don't use it all, right? Don't tell anybody, okay? But I buy all your, and I'm like, I know you do. A lot of people do. Why? Because they get a good experience with it. But this sucks from an advantage if I'm just starting an Amazon business. If the only advantage a good quality product would have in any market is after the sale has been made, how does that help me make the first sale? How does that help me get a new customer? Answer. It doesn't. It doesn't. Quality only helps you after the sale is made. You can make the argument marginally that potentially word of mouth would kick in, right? And that's true. But boy, that thing has to be exceptional. So Webinar Pitch Secrets, this little stupid ebook I wrote, took off like crazy. Word of mouth took it over. It was about the WP Twin. Same thing. Word of mouth took it over. Out of the 6 billion products I've ever made, I've only had 2 products of my own go crazy with word of mouth. Not worth it, right? I mean, now this is something I can control. Now how am I going to go and say, man, I really want a yoga mat that beats all other yoga mats, right? It's got to have these layers of triple antibiotic protection, you know, and all this other stuff, right? Can't happen. We just need a product that's adequate on the front end to make the sale. Now, we make it up in other ways. What's easier? Getting a fair price from sourcing a product where we can still have margins that make sense to us and quality, or just putting more effort into our support. Support, right? What's your, out of all the products that you've bought on Amazon, how many times has a merchant reached out to you and just said, hey, how you doing, right? So there's your competition. There's your competition, right? So just do better in that regard. Now, again, though, does support help you make that first sale? No. It does not. Does that support help you justify a higher price point when you go out there and sell it? Yes, as quality does. That's the only other advantage that quality has, is you can sell at a higher price. But it's not the only thing that determines whether you can sell at a higher price or not. Mattson, for what you sell, are you at the higher end of the spectrum? Yes, he thought he was at the higher end of the spectrum. I told him to raise his prices even more. I think you lowered them again, though, right? You didn't? Okay, good. All right. Now, I will give you permission to play with price point once you get success like Mattson, because there is an argument sometimes that I will sacrifice profit for units sold. Why in Amazon? I don't care about rank. What I care about is this. Customers who bought this also bought this. 36% of Amazon's sales come from upsells and cross-sells. 1 out of every 3 sales that take place at Amazon is from a cross-sell or an upsell. Interesting, huh? So if I'm doing more volume and more units, I'm more likely to appear on customers who viewed this page bought this, right? Customers who bought this also bought this with it, right? Oh, you bought this. Because you bought this, you should also buy these things, right? Have you seen that? Genius upselling. So there is an argument to be made that if we lower the price, sacrifice a little bit of profitability today, we'll make it up in volume, right? That is a legit argument. I don't recommend you have that strategy until you're qualified to make that decision yourself, right? Mattson is totally qualified to make that decision based on how much he's made, right? But I told Mattson to raise his price, even though he already thought he was on the higher end, right? What happened to your sales? They got bigger. His volume went up. Volume? Volume? How do you say it? I can't do it. I give up. I quit. This speaking stuff is just a scam anyway. I can't make it work, right? He sold more at a higher price. Why would that happen? I don't know, okay? All I know is customers are irrational and very little of the attention is paid on price. Most of it's paid on, oh, this looks cool. I don't know why, but it feels like it's the right thing for me to buy. Click, check out, done, okay? Every so often you'll get that person that's just like, oh, I'm going to spend 6 hours to save $1, right? And who cares? Get them out of here. I don't want them, right? So we can sell at a higher price and feel comfortable selling at a higher price, not because of the quality of our product, but because we know we're going to do better support than somebody else, okay? How many people do we have in support for Rapid Crush Inc.? We have like 14 people that are qualified to run that help desk, me not being one of them, by the way. I've answered 3 tickets in the last 2 years through our help desk, right? Now, how many people will we have to have on support, Will, would you estimate, if we were doing the same volume on Amazon? 2? 3?
2 or 3 at the most if we wanted to be engaging with the customer.
If we wanted to be actively engaging with the customer, right? 2 or 3. Not 14, okay? We could right now, with the extra bandwidth we have in Rapid Crush Inc., easily cover the same amount of volume in Amazon without hiring anybody else, right? And our quality and our support would be through the roof compared to our competition, okay? That's one of the, and there's a whole, and I talked about this last time we were here about all the different pricing strategies. But I don't care about quality, and I know that sounds weird coming from the guy that creates some of the highest quality internet marketing products. You have to understand this is two different markets. Consumable products, these are products that the people are buying. There's not much difference between one product and the next product and the next product and the next product. Somebody give me an example of an exception of that they could sell on Amazon, or that you saw somebody selling on Amazon, or a product that you did research on. What's the exception? Toys. Okay? Like specifically what? Like the Minecraft sword. Did anybody see that one? Well, that one doesn't count anyway, because why? It's branded, right? And that's by the way, it's a piece of crap sword. It's not quality. It's branded. What's the exception? Apply. So give me an example of one. Well, yeah, that's way out of our price point, so it doesn't qualify, right? So give me an example. Well, what's the exception? Again, out of our price point. The exception is there is no exception, right? You cannot name one, because the quality does not matter for what we do. If it's a quality issue, it's not really a quality issue, it's a brand issue. If you take Pepsi and Coke and pour them in different glasses, and tell somebody who says, oh, I love Coke, I can tell the difference, it tastes better than Pepsi, here's your Coke, and it's Pepsi, they don't know.
Would it be fair to paraphrase and say quality doesn't matter because it's always already high enough to start? The quality doesn't matter.
That's a great question. She wants to paraphrase me, which is funny. I like that. You can't paraphrase me. I have to do way out the door. We have to be reasonable and assume that quality does matter, okay? It matters to the extent that our product is just as good quality-wise as any other product that's on the market, right? But what I'm referring to specifically, and I'm glad you clarified this, what I'm referring to specifically is I'm not looking at superior quality as an advantage that I want to have in my marketing for my Amazon products, okay? I'm not, all right? Garcinia Cambogia is the same damn Garcinia Cambogia for the first 500 listings. You can put them in a hat, randomly pick one, and you're probably going to get the exact same product, right? Quality doesn't matter. What matters? What matters? Marketing, right? You take spatulas, I mean, as long as it passes the glance test initially, that will work, okay? Now, glances can be deceiving, right? I mean, shocking, I know, but those women on the cover of those beauty magazines, they don't actually look that way. That's Photoshop, right? So you can trick people with the glance test, okay? You can, right? So it's also got to pass the in the hands test, right? If when they get it, it looks okay, it doesn't look like it's generic, it doesn't look like it's going to fall apart, you're good quality-wise, right? But if you say, man, everybody else is doing this thing, and I really know that if I add bamboo to it, and nobody else has bamboo over here, and bamboo is something that my people really seem to like, awesome, you know? I've actually seen that backfire. I've seen people, not anybody in ASM, but I've seen people take a Garcinia Cambogia and say, oh, and I'll also add omega-3s to it, right? I'm enhancing their product. Guess what the consumer thinks in a situation like that? It's a gimmick. It's a trick, right? It's marketing fluff. It actually will probably decrease the sale in your attempt to increase the quality, right? WP Twin is the best cloner on the market. I wish it was that easy to say, we're the best, buy from us, right? No, we have to go through a whole damn sales job before we can sell that thing, even though it is the best, right? We have to sell it just as hard as we have to sell any other product that we sell. So quality is, what do they call that? It is a requirement, but it is not something we're going to fight to an advantage of.
Yeah, there's a minimum standard of quality
Yes.
that you have to meet. And that's what you have to think of. That minimum standard is going to be something that if you open up the box and you take it out of the box, it's not going to break. It's going to perform the way you've described it's going to perform, right? And the consumer is going to be satisfied with that. It doesn't have to be extra above and beyond. So if the majority of the products in the market meet that standard of quality, all you have to do is meet it as well. Because in the eye of the consumer, there is higher quality or there's higher perceived quality. And that's what you have to get to, is the higher perceived quality, which is you're going to get through marketing. But you don't have to invent something new, and this is where a lot of people get caught up on, is like, well, I have to make it better, or I have to make it a new thing, or I have to add an ingredient, or I have to whatever. You don't have to do that. Just meet that minimum level of quality, because let's say there's a beauty product. How do you evaluate quality for a skin moisturizer, or something that for an anti-wrinkle cream. How do you evaluate that quality? I'll ask the guys here, the guys in the room. How do you evaluate it? How do you know if it's quality? What's that? It's personal. First of all, it may work for one person or not another,
Yep.
right? So if it didn't work for you, is it bad quality? Or if it worked great for you, is it awesome quality? How do you know? So you do research, for example, for a supplier. You start learning things like as you start researching. The suppliers are marketing themselves, right? So they're going to say, well, we're FDA, GMP, CDBG, whatever certified, right? You don't know what that is. Go research it. Do a quick Google search. What is that? Oh, that is a standard of certification that means that they use organic products. I'm making things up here. But you start learning some of that lingo, so as you're evaluating other suppliers, you say, well, if that's important for organic products to have some sort of certification, then go to the suppliers that have that sort of certification, right? Don't fall into the marketing gimmicks, though, because a lot of those things would be marketing gimmicks, right? But start evaluating from your research, not necessarily from the results of the product, because you won't be able to do it. You're not the target market.
Yeah.
How do you evaluate, whether, I don't know, a diaper is more comfortable than another for a baby? How do you know? You ask a baby?
It's a great question. I just buy the one that's on the end cap when I'm going by the baby aisle. Throw it in there and I'm gone. Some weeks it's Huggies, some weeks it's Pampers. Convenience, right? That's how your customers shop. They're walking through, oh, like this one got my eye, boom, consumable, right?
Exactly. So what makes a diaper better than another? And I have 2 kids. I recently been doing the diaper thing. And,
I don't want the thing to leak out.
You don't want it to leak out. So that's the minimum standard of quality, right? If you were to private label a diaper,
so we've bought
that would be
the cruisers. I hate the cruisers, right? Because Max is walking around and his pee's falling out, right? So I don't buy that one anymore, okay? That's it. I move on to the next one, though. I don't even leave a bad review on their website. I should, right? But yeah, they're just grabbing it, putting it out there, and sticking it on. By the way, why am I making this such a good point? Wouldn't it be nice to have a higher quality product? What's the trade-off? Price.
And time.
And time, potentially. In general, typically these higher quality products come with them higher prices. And since we have a very real threshold, can't sell for higher than $40, right? We have a very real threshold that just eats into our profit margins. I have to be emotionally unattached in my Amazon business to be successful. So going back to the main point, we evaluate the supplier. We have them send us a sample. We say, this looks pretty good. It passes the glance test, and it passes the in-the-hands test. Seems like it's going to work, right? You know? And okay, everything's good. All right, let's sell it. Now, here what happens. Worst case scenario. You source this thing, you buy 100 units, you go out there. This happened to somebody in our group. She bought these baking mats, I think they were, right? And she found out that when they got over like 300 degrees, they got discolored. Does anybody remember this? Who was that? God, she's such a sweet lady, too. I told her, and she didn't take my advice, because, I mean, what do I know, right? I told her to get on Amazon, write in your product description, and run Facebook ads, saying, this is a damaged goods sell. These baking mats work perfectly fine, but because we absolutely want the highest quality standard in our product, I can't sell these anymore at retail price, right? Because they discolor, and I don't want you to be surprised when they discolor. So I'm just going to sell these to you at my cost. Why would you want to do something like that? Get rid of it. Walk away from it at break even and not have to eat the cost, right? Well, I wouldn't settle for that. I'd go back to the supplier and say, hey, asshole, you screwed me over here. I want you to make it up. You're going to cover this. You're going to cover this for our next supply, right? Otherwise, I'm going to sue you, But that's a different side of Jason that we don't have to talk about today, right? No, I'm serious. I would sue the supplier in that situation as long as we had a contract in place that specified certain things or an agreement in place, right? But the point is I would work at both ends. I would sell it to the consumers and get rid of it. And I would also make the supplier make it up to me, right? Which in this case, she did make the supplier make it up to her, right? I would have still sold it because here's the thing I know about customers, and this is so funny, man. So funny. If I say, here's this brand new mattress, I'm just having a closeout sell, it could be yours. Normally it's $4,000. By the way, I paid $4,000 for my mattress. I am a schmuck. But it's $4,000. I can give it to you for $800. What's your first thing that immediately comes to your mind? It's a scam, right? Right? But if somebody says there's a $4,000 mattress, but because Larry, when he was unloading the truck and he was smoking a cigarette, the ash accidentally fell in it and burned a little hole in the corner, and I got sold to you for $800, now what's the feeling? Oh my God, I am getting an incredible deal on this thing. I learned this from Gary Halbert, because he said, I think he was joking, but he never know with him. He says, we used to go to the warehouse and drill holes in the ceiling so we could claim rain damage on these things, so we could sell them at these at these really great prices, these closeout deals. Because if we just gave it to them at that price, they wouldn't buy it. But if we gave them the special deal because of this reason why, damaged goods, they'll buy the damn thing, right? So in her case, she still probably could have sold them at almost the same price. I wouldn't have said it at my cost then, because that's lying, right? I would have said, we're just getting rid of these. So you get a special deal. That special deal could have been $5 off. She would have sold more of them because of that reason why. Okay, now in this particular case, because you could argue with me, Jason, didn't you just go on this whole spiel about quality, right? And you say it doesn't matter. Here's when it would matter. A customer, would they be mildly dissatisfied or irate if they bought this thing and it changed color in 2 days? They'd be irate. And then what would they do? They would write a very bad review, right? So in this case, this is a minimum quantity or minimum quality standard that we have to meet. But if you paste the expectation, if you said to them, hey, this is going to happen, and because of that I'm giving you a huge discount, she could probably make more money selling a damaged good than she could selling an undamaged good. So how's that for quality, right? It's all about context in the marketing. So that's a very good point here as far as the quality goes, is what we talked about as far as sourcing from the suppliers go and trying different ways of doing that. The other thing here is, anybody ever do your research and have to say, that's an ASM listing, that's an ASM listing, that's an ASM listing? You're fooling yourself, by the way. Most of those aren't. I will tell you what happened. I'll tell you what happened. They saw the titles and they copied the titles. So people outside of ASM are copying the titles. And so that's what most people are evaluating, saying this is an ASM listing, because they're only looking at the title, right? Everybody's keyword stuff in titles now. So don't mistake that, just being a keyword stuff title, as somebody being an ASM, right? And don't use that to run you off of considering supplying and marketing something. Because what was my qualifications if I wanted to market something? Number one, I could get it from a supplier, right? Number two, bestseller rank, right? Number three, it makes sense in this price point, and there's at least a couple things in the market that bear this price, right? Do I care? Do I care if there's other ASM people or not? Do I care about the competition or not? No. Why? Because I have advantages the competition doesn't have. Do you have those advantages? You better freaking believe it. You have an advantage over the average the average regular Amazon seller because you have ASM. You have an advantage over the regular ASM people because you have us, right? So why shouldn't you feel that you can go in there and beat anybody and everybody, you know? Cliff and Justin, they're crushing it with their product. You guys are beating billion-dollar brands, right? Look at these two dudes. Beating billion-dollar brands. Billion-dollar brands, right? Why? Because they just ignored the competition. There wasn't a bestseller rank that they could compete against. It wasn't brand-driven, even though there's big brands in it, right? And the price point made sense. That's all we care about. Cynthia.
We were joking around on the ASM Masters forum, though, and then we stumbled upon the fact that 10 or 15
Yep. Here's the good news. At least 80% of you won't ever do anything with it. Here's the bad news. Here's the bad news. At least the 80% of you won't do anything with it. Sorry. It's just how it is, right? And that's understandable, right? I can't tell you how many things I buy, and I only get this much out of them, right? So you have to decide, do I want to be one of those people that do something with it or not? Now there are instances where everybody does something with it. You say, damn it. Why did I have to be the exception where every single person just happened to be a go-getter just like me, right? Well, guess what you get in that scenario? Experience, right? I will tell you where you can beat anybody and everybody, okay, is if you do the planning the way Will said, you'll beat anybody and everybody. You won't actually beat anybody because you're not competing against anybody. Over lunch, we were telling the story of, like, we won the ASM contest. Not once, but twice. We were the #1 affiliate both times. In both scenarios, we knew we were going to win before the last day. The numbers just made sense. Did we quit and give up? No, because we weren't competing against other affiliates. That's what everybody else was doing, right? We were competing against a number that we had set that we wanted to accomplish and achieve. That's it. So if you go and set this number and say, I'm going to sell this many units, guess what happens? While those other 10 or 15 are fighting for selling it only using this one strategy taught with a YouTube video and a press release, you're over at flea market selling 3 times as much because they're not doing that, right? It doesn't matter what they're doing because you'll still be able to meet your number. I guarantee you. Because you got to look at it one other way. How much total commerce is out there, and of that, what percentage does Amazon do? A minuscule amount, right? They do the majority of e-commerce. But would you believe there's still a lot of people that don't even shop, period, on Amazon? Think about that. Think about that. So yeah, don't ever worry about 10 people being in the same thing. The only time this would make a difference is if we all had certain shelf space we were fighting for and we could only be in one store. And some people were not going to be in that store, right? And even then, I'd say, sorry, this is business, right? I'm going to be in that store and you're not. Or you're going to be in that store and I'm not. It's who's ever willing to prepare to meet that goal that they set for themselves, right? So the last thing I will make here before we take a quick break and open it up for some more questions here, questions and then a break, is the final analysis with this sourcing products, and I don't care if you do it my way, the regular way, or you end up with your own way, right? The inclination here is to say, well, you know, hey, Jason, I have done yoga my whole life, right? And so I'm very passionate about yoga. I know a lot about yoga, so I'm going to do a yoga mat for my product on Amazon. And by the way, it meets the bestseller ranker. Selling ranking, I checked that out. So it's got the volume, right? It's also got the right price point. Yeah. It's not brand driven, right? So perfect. Perfect. Matt and Jason will tell you yes. Perfect. They actually teach you to pursue your passion. I don't recommend it, okay? Because here's what happens. You become emotionally invested in it, right? If you pick one that you also know a lot about, great. Okay, cool. Just go with it, right? But if you haven't picked a product yet or you want to pick a new product next time, pick one that you absolutely care nothing about. Because you will then make decisions only logically. Does the numbers work? Do the numbers work? Do the numbers not work? Should we cut this baby loose? Or should we push this thing up? If somebody comes and sells it to us. So Snapchat was recently offered $1 billion by Facebook. Right, Facebook? Google. They turned it down. What the hell? Why? Why would you turn down $1 billion? It's a baby, right? They're going to hold out because they know it's not worth only $1 billion, right? And they're probably right. Okay? But Dig ended up only selling for $250,000. Serious. Something ridiculous like that. I could have bought Dig. And then at one point it was a $1 billion company. $1 billion isn't enough for me, okay? I'm telling you. Somebody came along and said, I'll buy your Amazon business for $1 billion. I'd say, sold. Somebody came to me and said, I'll buy your kid for $1 billion. I'd say, which one, right? Maybe, okay? Maybe. But businesses, if the number
only there's a strict no refund policy.
Well, I'm always joking. They say if they kidnap your kid, they drop it off a block later anyway, you know? You don't have to worry about that. So we don't care. We make it by the numbers. We have a number. We have a goal. And if it hits that goal, it hits that goal, and we cut it loose, and it's done. So no emotional investment. We play the game completely logical. Any investors in here? Okay. What about Bitcoin, right? Nobody's made any money with Bitcoin because everybody's still holding Bitcoin. Nobody's sold out yet and cashed in, right? If you spend this much money in Bitcoin and it's went up to this much, you haven't made any money until you cash out and have more money in your pocket than you spent on the Bitcoin, right? All these people thinking that they're so smart, they're all going to go down in the ship together, right? Because nobody's selling. Because if it's this good now, it's got to go up. Nobody set what's called a stop order. There actually technically isn't one that you can physically set for Bitcoin like you can with the regular market. A stop order says, I'm going to get in at this price, and no matter what, I'm going to sell at this price. This price on the low end, this price on the high end, right? How many investors actually set stop orders on their investments? Less than 1%. Why? Because everybody else does it emotionally. You can't invest emotionally in the stock market. That's why you lose. You lose to people who don't invest emotionally. You can't invest emotionally in your Amazon business. You will lose because you will not put a stop order in. You will not cut it loose when it needs to cut loose. You will not make a plan to achieve a certain amount of money. You will take 15 months to get the product to market because you inspected everything that's possible about it, right? You know, like we spent a long time before deciding on a preschool for Abby, the oldest one. Okay, that made sense, right? I wouldn't put that much effort into any product I'd ever sell on Amazon. I'm not going to work it that hard, right? Because I'm not that emotionally invested. It's got to work within the time frame and the goal that we set. The final thing I'll say about this, if you go in the reverse process, also consider this. In certain products, there are these obscure categories, sub-categories, right? So if you've ever seen a listing and it says #1 bestseller, this is where I discovered this. I would get so excited. I do my research for a product. I'd look at the supplier list and say, oh my God, I think I got a bestseller product here because I see 3 #1 bestseller little badges on the right-hand side, right? I click on it, and the product's got a bestseller rank of like 5,227. Or in some cases, 24,999. Or in some cases, 102,762. And it's a bestseller. Why? Some of these categories Amazon has are like some of these categories that Netflix has, you know? It's like people who like watching documentaries where the main person is a vegetable, right? And there's a category for it. Now, there's probably 12 or 15, you know? Netflix, it's drives me nuts. So Amazon's the same way, though. Actually, Amazon is like 2. You could be a bestseller. You know, marketing is so great. I'm a Kindle bestseller, you know? Oh, yeah, you are. How much of that money did that make you? -$27? Because the guy at Fiverr that you paid to write the book made more money than the bestseller did, right? But why do we care? Because that will increase your click-through rate when there's a #1 bestseller attached to your thing. So that's one other thing to do is when you're looking at the product before you set it up, your next product in Amazon, try to pick some weird, obscure category as far remote as possible that you can pick. So that way when your 3 friends and your grandma buys it, you're a #1 bestseller, and that's a badge. The other thing, too, run promotions, even if the promotions are 1 penny off. There's 2 different types of promotions you can run on Amazon. And I don't know the technical names for them, but there's one promotion where you can show it right on the page, right? Does anybody know what that's called? I don't know. But then there's another option where you can hide it. So if I'm selling the product for $1, I'm not going to publicly show that on my Amazon page, right? It's going to be $29.95, and then when they click Add to Cart, and then they go on Add to Cart, it says discount code or coupon code or whatever. Once they put it in and click Update, then it changes it to $1, right? So unless I've specifically given you the coupon code, you do not know about this promotion. No, I can run a promotion where you do know about it. And why would I want to do that even if it was for 1 penny? Because on the search results, it will show active promotion in a lot of categories, right? It's another little badge. You ever see that? There's an active promotion running on this thing right now, and you could apply it. Now, is it possible for you to run both simultaneously an active promotion that they can see and one that they can't see? Yes! So even if you're running an active promotion for 1 penny, here's one even funnier. This one company, and I don't know how it works anymore, this was years ago, they took two products that you could buy separately, and they say, hey, buy these products together instead. And if you bought them together, it was more money than if you bought each one of them separately, right? And it was funny because they were proving the psychological point, and this was on Amazon, that people will feel just that because they're bundled together, it's a better deal. And they won't do the math. I did this recently. So this powdered peanut butter is the greatest thing in the world. So I'm buying all this powdered peanut butter on Amazon, but I'm buying it one jar at a time, right? And I see one day they got a 6-pack. Hell yeah, right? Because I'm tired of running out of this stuff. But I start doing the math. I say, one jar is this much money. 6 of them, the 6-pack's worth more than if I buy 6 individually, right? This is the stupidest thing in the world, right? So, but I still buy the 6-pack. Why? Because I don't trust myself. I'm saying I've either did the math wrong, I'm not looking at the number right. This can't be possible. I still buy. They're going to email me and tell me that there was a coupon that didn't get it. I don't know. I bought the damn 6-pack.
And that's why he's not the CFO.
But this is average, typical consumer behavior. This really is. So consider running $1, $2 promotions, okay? Which, by the way, allows you to price your product even higher. You know, what's more attractive? A $30 product with a $10 discount, or a $20 product with a $4 discount, right? The $20 product with a $4 discount is $16. The $30 product with the $10 discount is $20, right? But it's $10 off. That's more attractive. So we price high just for no other reason than we can discount more, right? Just for no other reason. So first of all, we're going to price high. We're going to run a discount, an active public discount that's going to drop the price a few bucks, right? And then we're going to run the unpublished discounts if we want to give away dollars or even sell it at cost. And in certain instances, I'll tell you where a lot of people are missing some opportunity here is buy one, get two free. This is the next thing I'm going to test. Buy one, get two free. Okay? What sounds more attractive? And it depends on the product, right? Two free. Let's do the math. Let's do the math. Let's say we retail the product at $30. Let's say our cost is $10. If we do a buy one, get two free, how much money do we lose? Nothing, right? If we sell one product at $1, how much money do we lose? $9. What sounds more attractive in a sense? Buy one, get two free? Or get a product for $1, right? Now we change the marketing hook. Now maybe we can get into markets where we can actively promote this thing and make a sale. And by the way, buy one, get two free. The only challenge in this case is we're going to run out of inventory quicker, right? Is that a bad thing? No, it's not. It actually is a good thing and a consideration because now you can go to a supplier. If you're running through inventory quicker, you can now negotiate better prices with them because you're selling more, right? Buy one, get three free. Who does that, right? What if we say buy one, get three free, but we just raise the price to $49.95, right? We could actually start making money with our promotions. Buy one, get three free. Ridiculous, right? Buy one, get three free. But not only will they buy something like that and be more likely to believe it and respond to it, especially if you can make it believable, right? But we can now have the same effect without selling the product for $1. So these are some of the things that over the next year I'm going to be doing a lot of. The only place you'll absolutely be guaranteed to get an update on these things is in the Facebook group. So make sure you're there. Bruce. What do you mean? So from like a ranking perspective, just like one sale. I wish it was as easy as telling somebody, hey, go here and buy 1,000 of these, right? Boom, number one the next day. But if there is a benefit, it's probably a marginal benefit. It's probably so microscopic that there's no real benefit to having somebody buy more than one.
You set it up so that everyone else sends out through, but you can increase the price. Set up so it's all recent copy.
All I know is that when we go into the coupon code generator, they have that as an option, right? So I'm assuming that logistically speaking, and they're the best, most logistic company in the world, I'm assuming that they make that happen some way or another during...
Test it. Have family member buy it and try it out.
Yeah.
So no, you can't do that with FBA. That coupon only works for FBM. And I tried it, and I got customer replies, where are my other products? So I had to ship.
So you have to fulfill the other two yourself?
I did.
Couldn't you just log in and upload like the thing and have Amazon send them out one at a time?
Yeah, you know, there's some workarounds like that. But the point is that Amazon doesn't clearly say which coupons work for FBA versus FBM. So for that one, if there's more than one product supplied with a coupon, you have to do it with your FBM inventory if you have it set up that way.
Okay.
Because you have to fulfill.
Yeah, so there's a workaround. It's not as easy out of the box as we'd like it, but it's still possible, right? That's good. I'm glad you brought that up.
Thank you, Minders.
So let's take some questions here real fast, and then we're going to take a
Before we
break.
go to questions, I wanted to bring something back that you said to the conversation we had about planning and the numbers, because you brought something very concrete that is a very concrete benefit that people have to think about. When you said that you shouldn't be really concerned about what the other folks are doing. Let's say there are ASMers or non-ASMers, whoever's competing for your product. While they're competing for the rankings, you're competing against yourself for the number. So if you're achieving the numbers that you want to achieve, it doesn't matter whether you are number 1 or number 15, does it? If you decided you want to make X dollars in a particular month and you do it, doesn't matter what your ranking is. No, it doesn't. That's one point. The second point is, if you do find other avenues, and we used the example of, you know, go to the swap meet or go sell door to door. I'm not saying do those things specifically. They're not concrete examples. They're just kind of concepts, right? If you do other things to achieve your number, then you might actually be doing a heck of a lot better than they are, no matter what your position is financially, which then gives you other opportunities to go source other products to grow your business. It gives you opportunity to source products at a lower price because you're driving more quantity, right? Or volume. I can't get over that one. Volume. Yeah. I'll teach you later. Teach an IO guy to speak English. So do you understand that all these things are connected, and the more that you can focus on your number and your profitability as your primary objective, then all these other things start falling into place to give you competitive advantage, and it starts to snowball. It starts to add up. So the concept of buy one, get two free, you're going to go through a lot of inventory. Are you making a whole lot of money on that? No, maybe you're just breaking even, but what's one way to make more profit? To lower the cost, right? So if there was nothing you could do other than try and get lower cost, then push more volume through, right? So keep those things in mind. If you run the business by the numbers, you are changing the rules. You're playing a different game now. You're not playing just a ranking game. You are playing a different game in which you control the rules.
And do you think that will help you in your rankings, by the way?
Of course it'll help you in your rankings.
Yeah.
Questions?
Thank you. Going back to your example of the baking mat that went wrong, would you advise that we have a contract agreement with suppliers?
Well, you get a basic agreement. I don't know this side of the business. Will handles all this, but I'm assuming with our supplier, we have something somewhere written down, right?
Yeah, there's a standard contract that goes into it. To be very honest, we have not been as diligent on this side yet because we're just learning. We're just starting like everybody else. But as we grow in the business, that is something that we're going to look at, is having some of these contracts in place. We do that in our Rapid Crush info product business. We have contracts for everything that we do. So that is something that I would look at, is putting contracts in place that would guarantee a certain level of quality, or whatever the metrics are that we want to ensure. And what happens if those things are not met?
Yeah, so right now we have a very, very basic LOA, basically, letter of agreement, I think. Something very, not very legalese, right? But something like, hey, we agree to this quantity to be shipped at this time, blah, blah, blah.
This is not from personal experience. A friend of mine handles very large outsourcing projects, like $1 billion. They're building oil pipelines, and he's in supply chain management. So when I told him about what we're doing, he said, what you should have is 3 suppliers where,
Right.
yeah, but the second and third one provide 10% of your stock. So they're there, you know they're there, and the moment number one bails or fails, you can switch over. Don't start looking. And that's what they do in the big business, and I think it's a sensible approach even on the small stuff. So you need 2 or 3. Let them ship 10% always. Might be the best price, but it's a safeguard policy. So if you need to switch, you can do it overnight and ramp up volume.
So you saw how Amazon got hammered recently during the holidays because of all the failed deliveries, right? Did anybody see that? Oh, there were people irate. I was laughing because I'm like, Jesus Christ, 99.9% of the time everything's kosher. The 0.1% of the time it breaks. Everybody goes hysterical, right? But, you know, classic supply chain management would say you wouldn't have one carrier deliver all your stuff, right? So you would have a backup plan. So even Amazon screws this up. But yeah, if you're doing massive volume, you should never be overly reliant on one supplier. So for what we do for now, though, it's part of doing the business, right? But ideally, you want more than one supplier because then you have more capabilities of negotiation, if nothing else, right? Will and I renegotiated with our merchant account because we went to Wells Fargo and we started a merchant account through them. Then we went back to those guys and we said, hey, you're holding a whole bunch of our money hostage. When are you going to release it? In your contract, it says that you've got to release it this time. We said, no, clause 1521 on the back of page 93 says we actually don't, even though we advertised 6 months over here. We lied to you, basically. Ha ha. And anyway, we're not going to give you your money for 9 months because you decreased your volume. You decreased how much money you were running to the processor with us. And we said, oh yeah, you want to know why? Because we went to Wells Fargo, jackass, you know? They go, oh my God, you did? What's their rate? It's a lot better than yours. What's your reserve? We don't have a reserve. They pay us by the end of the day. Tomorrow morning, they matched that rate and they released all of our money, right? We still cut them, right? Do we use them, Will? No, we still cut them out of principle. It's stupid. What a stupid way of doing business. Anyway, the point of that is when you have more options, you have more flexibility, right? I'm glad you brought that up, though. But that's advanced stuff, right? We are at a risk having all of our eggs in one basket with one supplier. But at the same time, we're at an advantage that we can start a physical product business for $1,000. Isn't that nuts?
Yeah, on this concept of having the multiple suppliers and multiple sources, I actually was talking to somebody during a break or lunch or something about it. And you're going to eventually or hopefully run into a situation where your supplier can't give you enough units of what you're selling, right? So they may have a production capacity of, say, 50 or 100,000 units a month, and you're running out of inventory every other week, and now you're without inventory for 2 weeks every time. They cannot physically give you any more production capacity. That's a problem that you hope to have. The issue with what we're doing here is it's difficult from the start to go find a secondary supplier for the same product.
Yeah.
Because take a beauty product. When you go to a supplier, it's going to have a specific formula that is not your formula. So you could not take that formula and duplicate it. If you were to formulate your own, so it was your own formula,
yep,
then you can go to a contract manufacturer A and contract manufacturer B and C, give them the formula and say, produce this for me, right? So in that case, you can do it. When we're taking somebody else's product and just private labeling it, unless it's something extremely generic, like this glass in this shape, and 17 different suppliers can give you exactly the same thing, you're not going to be able to have that luxury. But guess what? If you are selling that product extremely well and you are making, $50,000 a month like Mattson is, and his supplier is not matching what it's supposed to be, what he needs, Mattson now has enough funds to probably go formulate his own.
Yep.
Right?
Easily.
So then you can go to a contract manufacturer, Mattson, and have them manufacture the stuff, and then go to another one, and now you have the multiple sources. So it's something you want to think about, but you were so far off, all of us, including Jason and I, everybody in this room is so far off from that. that we don't, just keep that in the back of your mind, but not something you should be concerned with. I find that every time somebody mentions something, whether it's in the Facebook group, in the ASM forum, or a friend talks about it, or somebody writes a blog post, everybody has a tendency, it's like, oh my God, I got to really pay attention to this. Don't do that, okay?
It's how you should do it at large scales. And absolutely, you will do it like that at large scales.
I had a question. I wonder if you had any insight. At least, so you're doing your research, right? And you're going through and you see all these things, and you're like, what in the world? Why is this person number one? They have one image, it sucks, and their description, it's like, what? I
don't even try to.
And here we are, we're like, optimize this, images this, titles that, you know.
Don't even play that game. Drive you nuts.
Okay, so you have just as much clue as I do.
Yeah, who knows, right?
Okay.
It could be for a number of reasons, and I have my theories, but I don't take that into consideration when I'm looking at a listing. It's just like Google, right? Why is every technical question I ask Google return a result from 2008, you know? Keynote's changed a lot since 2008. Microsoft Word has changed a lot since 2008, you know? But why is it always 2008? I don't know. It's screwed up, right? So you can't guess why. You can just say, okay, the formula seems to be if our conversion rate's good and if we move enough units, then we should be able to rank high for it. Why is this idiot here with the worst listing ever, number one? I don't know. Yeah, and it doesn't matter if you're making your numbers, but we had to say, will this product be something that we can be competitive on? So yeah, I don't even look. I do not even look. I don't even try to guess. If it's a really bad product, I kind of laugh and say, cool, maybe there's opportunity for me here. If it's a really good product, then I say, cool, because I can do just as good as that product, right? Don't play that game, right? You know, why does the sun rise in the east? I don't know. You know, that's just how the world's set up. Dang, there was one hot little tip I was going to give that was not directly related to what we were talking about, but I forgot what it was when we got into that supply chain. The supply chain question. Let me think for a second, because I had a little trick I wanted to share. It'll come back to me. We're going for a break now?
Yeah, let's do a quick break. It's 4:22 right now. Let's be back at 4:45. So just over 20-minute break, and then we'll have the final session for today.